أشهد أن نبينا محمدا عبده ورسوله صلوات الله وسلامه عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته اللهم انفعنا بما علمتنا وعلمنا ما ينفعنا وارزقنا علما تنفعنا به آمين يا رب العالمين الحمد لله. We have our next stars today on the book Nawaqid al-Islam by Shaykh Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab rahimahullah ta'ala. And we are at the third naqid of the 10 nawaqid that the Shaykh has mentioned, yani the third nullifier of Islam. The first one we spoke about was, number one was what? Was the first naqid? Ashirku fi ibadatillah. Shirk in the worship of Allah. And we proved this from the ayat of the Qur'an. We mentioned a hadith and we spoke about shirk in some detail, major shirk and minor shirk and so forth. Then last week we did the second naqid, the second nullifier, which is من جعل بينه وبين الله وسائط يدعوهم ويسألهم الشفاعة ويتوكل عليهم كفر إجماعا. The author, he said that whoever places between him and Allah an intermediary, whoever places intermediaries between himself and Allah, what does he do with them? Calls upon them, makes dua to them, asks them for shafa'ah. So when he's saying he wants shafa'ah, he's asking them for shafa'ah, not Allah. Right? And he puts his trust in them. And trust is also ibadah, tawakkul. Right? Then this person has disbelieved according to all scholars, ijma'an. Although we did say last week, remember, there's one issue that is slightly differed over amongst the scholars of Ahlul Sunnah. What was the issue? No, not believing that they can hear you or they're alive. That wasn't the issue. Sorry? Dua at the grave. What type of dua? No, not that. Asking Allah through their status is a separate issue. We said that's bid'ah, not shirk. We said that's bid'ah, not shirk. What was an issue I mentioned? Yes. Asking them to ask Allah. Right? When you go to the grave. So you're not asking from afar. If you're asking from afar and you ask the dead to ask Allah, we say shirk, major shirk. Everyone agrees. Right? But the way Ahlul Sunnah disputed is if you go to the grave, at the grave site, they are saying it's like asking a living person. Because the dead person can hear you and he could ask Allah on your behalf. Right? And that's what the author, he said, يَسْأَلُهُمُ الشَّفَاعَةِ. So sometimes the people go and they ask him for shafa'ah, or they say, ask Allah for shafa'ah. Ask Allah to bless me. And this, we said, all our scholars agree, it's not allowed. It's haram. But they differed whether it is bid'ah or shirk. Right? And I said the correct view is it is shirk. Because you're still asking other than Allah. The person is dead, you're not allowed to ask the dead. And there's no proof that they can actually hear your dua, nor can they make dua for you. This all requires evidence. Hence, we can agree it's bid'ah, no doubt about it. But what's more apparent is it's still an act of shirk. And I mentioned there's two opinions about Ibn Taymiyyah. Some scholars said Ibn Taymiyyah said it's bid'ah. Others said no, he meant bid'ah shirkiyah. Meaning he actually believed it's shirk. Our author believes it is shirk. From what's apparent from his words here is, he believes that it is shirk as well. Wallahu a'lam. Tayyib. That was the second issue, which we also said is extended from the first issue. Because it's also shirk. The first issue was shirk. The second issue is intermediaries, which is a type of shirk. But the reason he made it a separate naqid is why? Because it's so widespread and prevalent amongst the people. So many people have intermediaries. So many people call upon the dead. So many people worship other than Allah, especially through dua. Right? Especially through dua. This is why he made it a separate nullifier of Islam. Khair. Today we're going to look at the third nullifier. Now, there's a question, yes. intercession that's permitted, yes? Yes. So there's a it says basically it says that if you memorize the Quran, you have the Quran, then you can take, I think it's 10 people from your family or friends to paradise. Right? This hadith is not authentic at all. It's not authentic at all. So this should not be relied upon. Okay? So that's not authentic. There will be shafa'ah. Certain people will do shafa'ah. But Allah will choose who they are. Whether they're hafiz or not, Allah knows best. But as to that specific virtue of the hafiz choosing 10 people from his family to go to Jannah, this is not established in the Sunnah. It's not established in authentic narrations. طيب, I think just before we move away from shirk, there was an important question uh, about, what was it about? It was about the hadith and the discussion I had about minor shirk in alfaz, in speech. And the examples we gave were swearing by other than Allah. The examples we gave were saying stuff like, MashaAllah wa shi't, by the will of Allah and your will, as the man said to the Prophet, and he said, you're making me a partner to Allah. You should say, MashaAllah wahda, by the will of Allah alone, or by the will of Allah, then by your will. But don't make it equal to Allah. There must be no tandeed, equivalence. Right? The other examples of minor shirk we mentioned were saying stuff like, had it not been for the dog, the thief would have entered the house. That's a hadith. The Prophet said, this is not allowed. You must say, Lawla Allah. Had it not been for Allah, then the dog. Right? And this is where I gave other examples. And I said stuff like, we can't say the doctor saved my life. We should say Allah saved my life, then the doctor. Right? So on this mas'ala, there was an important question last week about the hadith of between Aisha, the Prophet, and Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anha, where there was a dispute and her father, Abu Bakr, was to reprimand her or beat her or discipline her, and the Prophet stood between them. Right? And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what did he say? He said to her, have you seen كيف رأيتني or رأيتني أنقذتك من الرجل? How did you find that I protected you from the man? So is this not a form of shirk or not? Minor shirk. Because he did not say Allah protected you, I protected you from the man. Right? So I said there must be some dawabit, and I did some research on it. So just to clarify the mas'ala, and I believe I made a mistake in what I said about some of the examples I gave. So to summarize it, right, the ulama, they said the following. They said, if you attribute something to a real cause, a sabab. Sabab, what's a sabab? Is a cause. Mathalan, medicine is a cause for cure. But Allah is the musabbib. Allah is the one who cures. But He uses the medication as a reason, as a cause for your shifa. Understand? Similarly, a dog might be a cause, a sabab, to keep a thief away. But in reality, it's Allah who keeps him away. Allah is the musabbib. He's the one who actually keeps him away. He's the actual protector, not the dog. So the ulama said, if you attribute something to a real cause, while believing Allah is the one who created the cause and its effect, this is one situation, then this is permissible. So I attribute, mathalan, protection to the dog, believing Allah is the protector. They say this is allowed because the dog is a sabab. Right? The dog is a sabab. Or medication. The medication helped me. you were to say this medication helped me, then technically this would be permissible as long as I believe Allah is the one who actually cured me, not the medication itself. Or Allah caused the medication to help me. Right? Because that is an actual sabab. It's proven through experience, and it's proven through, yani, it's a worldly benefit. And it's something that's agreed upon, basically. Okay? Or the sabab is something in the Sharia. If it is something proven in the Sharia, then it can be attributed to this. So in the case of the hadith, when the Prophet said to her that I protected you, meaning I stood between you and your father, he's not trying to say Allah had nothing to do with protecting you. He's trying to say, I was the one who rescued you. Whilst believing Allah is the one who was in control of everything. So based on this, they say that it is permissible. Is this understood? As long as we believe Allah is the musabbib, the one who's doing everything, one who's in control of everything, and this is a valid cause, the sabab is valid, then we can attribute it, although it's better not to. What's best? Now this is where I made a mistake. I said you have to. I said it is shirk to do this all the time. This is wrong. What's correct is to say, it's better to say, Allah protected me. And then the dog. As the hadith says, you should say, Lawla Allah. Right? Or it's to say, Allah cured me and He used the medication. Or the medication benefit me by the will of Allah. These type of words are the best. This is the better option. Right? Because there's no doubt about it. It's clear you're attributing to Allah what He has done. Right? So that's number one. Attributing something to a real cause while believing Allah is the one who created the cause and its effect. Is that understood? Do you want me to repeat it? Are you good? Number two is attributing something to a cause in a way that forgets Allah, glorifies the cause, or believes the cause acts independently. Now, this is where the issue of shirk comes in. So, I'm attributing something to a cause that forgets Allah. Right? This is the problematic one. Where I'm saying it's the dog that protected us, and I'm not even thinking about Allah. You understand? I'm not even thinking about Allah. I'm only attributing to the dog. That's it. And in my mind and heart, I'm not thinking about Allah. This is the problematic one. Or I'm glorifying the cause. You see, when you attribute, we should not glorify the way we glorify Allah. Are you with me? So I shouldn't glorify the sabab, the cause, as if this is the musabbib, as if it's equal to Allah. Is this understood? So there mustn't be glorification, ta'zeem of the sabab, like we do ta'zeem of Allah, or else this can become an act of shirk. Right? Minor shirk. Or he believes the cause acts independently. Meaning what? It's got nothing to do with Allah. It's purely the cause. And what's the ruling on this? Huh? What type of shirk? This is major shirk. If I believe the cause acts independently, this is what cured me. It's this medication that cured me. It's that doctor that cured me. Independently of Allah. Not Allah that cured me. Then this is kufr. This is major shirk. Because now you've equated someone to Allah in rububiyyah, in Allah's actions. Understand? Or in His attributes. So this number two can be either major or minor shirk, depending on the person's belief and his intentions. Is this واضح? The person attributes to a cause in a way that he forgets Allah. He just focuses on the cause. You know? For example, someone's cured or someone's protected by something or someone, And he keeps attributing, that guy, that guy, that guy, that guy, that guy, that guy protected me. That guy is so strong, he's so brilliant, so brave. And there's no mention or even thought of Allah. This is a problem, right? I would say it's minor shirk. It's minor shirk. Even though because he's not equating the person to Allah yet. But it's a possibility that can lead to major shirk. And this is a type of glorification. You understand? That is glorifying the cause. This doctor, that doctor, that doctor. No mention of Allah cured you. No even thought that Allah cured you. It's a mushkila. This could be minor shirk. But to believe something acts independently, not in need, not with Allah at all, this is major shirk. Okay? And then number 3 is attributing something to a false cause. It's a sabab that you made up. It's got no dalil for it. There's no dalil for it. Not in the Qur'an or Sunnah, nor is it well known amongst the people. Right? So it's a false cause that Allah did not make as a cause, either legislatively or naturally. Either legislatively, meaning in the Quran or Sunnah, or naturally, it's not a cause. For example, if we take protection, right? There are certain things Allah has made as sabab for protection. Mathalan, adhkar. So, for example, the Prophet said, if you say Bismillah alladhi la yadurru ma'a ismihi shay'un fil ardi wa la fis samaa'i wa huwa as-sami'ul 'alim 3 times in the morning, protects you. Nothing will harm you. 3 times in the evening, nothing will harm you for the night. That's a sabab for protection. Who's the protector? Allah, not the dhikr itself. Allah is still the protector, but this year, if you recite this, it's a cause for Allah to protect you. That's legislated. Shar'an, it's in the deen. Then people have made up sababs, like amulets. If you wear this, it will protect you from evil eye. If you put this in your home, to protect your home and your children and your business and your this and your this, and that is innovated. That sabab is not part of the Quran and Sunnah. Understand? Not proven legislatively, meaning shar'an, or naturally. Certain things are natural causes. For example, a dog protects you. That's natural. A dog barking at a thief is something natural. Right? That doesn't need dalil from Quran Sunnah. It's something natural. An amulet protecting your house is not natural. Right? Or hanging something, an eye around your neck, the eye of, the blue eye that they sell. They call it the eye of Fatima. It's got nothing to do with Fatima radiallahu anha. They call it the eye of Fatima. People believe it will protect you from evil eye. That's superstition. It's not proven in any form or any way. This is a bid'ah. So if I attribute to this, then this is also a type of minor shirk. It's a type of minor shirk. It's a bid'ah and it's a minor shirk. Because it can lead you to major shirk. It can lead you to major shirk. So it was important. I wasn't settled on the mas'ala. I knew there must be these rules that the scholars have placed. Right? So it is important for me to go back to that and just clarify the mas'ala bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. There's a hadith also, it came up in the seerah. It also reminded me about this. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, لَوْلَا أَنَا لَكَانَ فِي الدَّرْكِ الْأَسْفَلِ مِنَ النَّارِ. Had it not been for me, Abu Talib would have been in the lowest pits of the hellfire. Had it not been for me, meaning I interceded in his behalf. Right? Now the Prophet's not forgetting Allah here. He's saying, had it not been for me, his love for me, his defense of me, and me asking Allah to lower or lighten his punishment, he would have been in the pits of the fire. But he used the word lawla. And he didn't say lawla Allah. So what we have to do is take all of these ahadith in light of the other hadith I mentioned about the dog, lawla al-kulayba. There, what's meant there is the Prophet is speaking in a context. And he's saying, don't say this, it's not preferred. And secondly, if you really forget about Allah and you put your trust in the dog and you think the dog acts independently, then this can become shirk. So this is where the warning comes into those narrations. Wallahu a'lam. right? Um, but as I said before, what's best is attribute to Allah all the time. Try your best. Because number one, that's a form of glorifying Allah. Allah deserves that. This is from monotheism that we do this. Okay? And Allah knows best. Is the mas'ala understood? واضح, clear? Attributing something to a real cause while believing Allah is the one who created the cause and its effect. Allah is the one who created the cause and its effect. Khair. So we move on to the third nullifier, الثالث. The author رحمه الله تعالى, he said, من لم يكفر المشركين أو شك في كفرهم أو صحح مذهبهم كفر إجماعا. The author, he said, whoever does not declare the polytheists, the mushrikeen, to be disbelievers, or doubts their disbelief, أو صحح مذهبهم, or considers their religion or their path to be correct, their madhab, then he has disbelieved by consensus. كفر إجماعا. Okay? عليكم السلام ورحمة الله. أيوة, okay. خير. الحمد لله. بارك الله فيك. So there are three issues in this nullifier. Number one is, whoever does not declare the mushrikeen to be disbelievers. Meaning, we'll get into the details. This is number one, right? There's three issues here. So someone considers a mushrik to be a Muslim. Considers this mushrik to be a mu'min, a believer. Or this Jew or Christian or Hindu, and he says, no, he's Muslim. Not kafir. You can't say they're kafir. This is the first issue. So this is an act of kufr. To say that is kufr in and of itself, is what the author is saying. Number two is, أو شك في كفرهم, or he doubts their disbeliefs. So he doesn't say they're Muslim, but he doubts. I'm not sure, maybe he's Muslim, maybe he's not. Right? He looks at the Christian and says, maybe he's Muslim, I'm not sure. And this is not an issue of maybe he took Shahada. That's not the discussion. The discussion is, I'm not sure if we can say he's kafir. He's a Christian. He considers Isa the son of Allah, worships Isa and Maryam and so forth. But I'm not sure if I can say he's kafir. This is doubting in his kufr. What's the author saying? This is kufr in and of itself. You cannot doubt their kufr. And number three, what's the third issue? صحح مذهبهم. He considers their path, their madhab, their methodology, their school of thought, their aqidah, their beliefs to be correct. He says there's nothing wrong with it. It's sahih. Sahaha means he says it's sahih. He says it's valid. It's correct. It's proper. There's nothing wrong with it. Right? And this is even more severe. This is worse than having shak. This is worse than not making takfir. You saying this is the haqq. This is the worst of the three. Understand? You're not just doubting or saying, no, they maybe can't say they can't. You saying they're correct. This is the worst of the three. طيب. Before we get into the three, we must understand our kalima la ilaha illallah. Right? And the scholars, they said this kalima has two pillars. What are the two pillars? Sorry? An-nafyu wal-ithbat. There are two pillars to the shahada. Number one is negation, nafi. Negation. In Arabic, the word is nafyun or an-nafi. Wal-ithbat is number two, is affirmation. Negation and affirmation. The kalima has two pillars. Negation, affirmation. The first part of the kalima is pure negation. La ilaha. That's the first part. Is when we say there is no ilah. What does ilah mean? What does the word ilah mean? We did this in the Qawaid al-Arba'. The word, the name of Allah, ilah, that word there, it means what? Ma'bud, or something worthy of worship. We prove this, Quran and Sunnah, we prove this. And from other scholars, even the Maturidi scholars said, ilah bimana ma'bud. Right? So when we say la ilaha, what do we say? There's none worthy of worship. Right? Complete negation. In other words, what am I saying when I say la ilaha? I am saying I do not worship anything. I disbelieve in everything. It's like saying I don't worship trees, stones, idols, the sun, the moon, prophets, messengers, jinn, angels, the dead, saints. I don't worship any of them. I don't worship anything. That's negation, negating worship. And then the second part of the Shahada is affirmation or confirmation, which is illallah. There's an exception to that negation, which is except Allah. Nothing is worthy of worship except Allah. I believe in nothing. I worship nothing except Allah. Understand? This is what the kalima means. So when I understand the kalima like this, it's impossible for me to what? To do tasheeh of another school of thought or religion. I can't go to a religion where they're worshipping Isa alayhi salam, or a religion where they're worshipping idols, or a religion where they're worshipping something else, and say this is the correct. There's nothing wrong with them, because then I haven't understood the kalima. The shahada itself is a refutation on this. This means you don't understand the shahada of la ilaha illallah, right? So what's the implication of the shahada is that we must reject everything that is worshipped besides Allah. That's it. This is part of our shahada. We reject every single thing that's worshipped besides Allah. From whether it's angels, prophets, saints, etc., we reject that. Okay? And from the conditions of the shahada is kufr bil taghut. Al kufr bil taghut. Which means what? From the conditions of the shahada. Our shahada has conditions. 8 conditions. Like, who knows them? Wow, wow. What's the 8 conditions of the shahada? What do you remember? So the Arabic is al-ilmu wal-yaqinu wa al-qabulu wal-inqiyadu wa al-sidq, al-ikhlas wal-mahabba, al-kufr bi-taghut. Right? That's a dars on its own. What are the shurut of la ilaha illallah? To summarize, just to give you the translation of what he said, is knowledge. You must know what the shahada means. Ilm. Yaqeen, you must have certainty. No doubts in the shahada. So it's what? Knowledge, certainty. Ikhlas, that you believe in the shahada sincerely for the sake of Allah alone. You're a Muslim for the sake of Allah, not for society and your people and so forth. As-sidq, truthfulness. Truthfulness. Al-mahabba, you love the shahada and the implications of the shahada and the people of the shahada. Al-qabul, which is you accept the shahada and all of what it entails, all of its implications and what it necessitates. Qabul. Wal-inqiyad means you surrender to it. You surrender to this kalima. It's not just a word that we say, La ilaha illallah. This kalima comes with obligations and prohibitions. We surrender to everything. We obey. And the last is al-kufr bi-taghut. From the shurut of La ilaha illallah is we reject every false god. We'll touch on the word taghut later on. Taghut literally basically means a false god. Okay? We do kufr bil taghut. We say, I disbelieve in All these people, these things that the people are worshipping, I disbelieve in everything. And I only believe in Allah. Understand? That's what La ilaha illallah means, as I explained it with the two pillars, Nafi and Isbat. There's a verse of the Qur'an that says the exact same thing. Habib, what's the verse? Kufr bi taghut. Ahsant. The ayah after Ayatul Kursi. How does it go? He knows the ayah, has memorized it. La ikraha fi din, qad tabayyana rushd min al-ghayy. Then, wa yu'min. Two things Allah says there. No, no. فَمَن يَكْفُرْ بِالطَّاغُوتِ وَيُؤْمِن بِاللَّهِ. Allah says these two words. Two. This is what La ilaha illallah means. He says, whoever disbelieves in the Taghut, all the false gods, that's La ilaha. وَيُؤْمِن بِاللَّهِ. And he believes in Allah alone, worships Allah alone. فَقَدْ اسْتَمْسَكَ بِالْعُرْوَةِ الْوُثْقَى لَا انْفِصَامَ لَهَا. This person has taken hold of this strongest, grasp of faith that will never break. What's the grasp of? It's this the Shahada. The one who does kufr bil taghut and he believes in Allah alone. That's what our Shahada means. Why is this coming up here? Is because we must establish this. Now we can talk about how can you say this is sahih and how can you have shak. You can't have shak because you know kufr bil taghut. If you worship other than Allah, your deen is batil. Understand? So this is what the Shahada is built upon. It's a condition of the Shahada and technically a pillar as well, as the ulama mentioned. So this is essential, that we do kufr bi taghut. And the moment we see anything or anyone worshipping other than Allah, we know they're upon falsehood. We can't consider them to be believers or have doubt about their kufr or consider them or even and in any way say this is sahih what they're doing or validate them. Understood? Yes. Yeah. Mm, mm, mm. Abrahamic, the Abrahamic faiths, Abrahamic code. Mm, yeah. Mm. I don't know about the La ilaha illallah thing. What's the ruling on that? Like me saying La ilaha and you saying illallah as a chant, right? Firstly, is it legislated? That's not legislated. You could say it's a bid'ah easily, but I don't know what the intentions are behind it. Understand? Um, as for I'm going to speak about Wahdatul Adyan later on, and then we'll maybe address your question there. Just remind me of the question when I get there, right? Um, where am I? Right. So, firstly, we want to give some evidences from the Quran for declaring disbelief upon one who does not declare the polytheists to be disbelievers. Because that's what the Shaykh said. If you don't do takfir of the mushrik, then this is kufr in and of itself. Or you doubt their kufr. So we want to prove what the Shaykh is saying, that this is an act of kufr. Understand? To not make takfir of them or to doubt their kufr is kufr. We need to prove this. Firstly, Allah said, Surah Al Imran, verse 19, Inna deena inda Allah Islam. Indeed, the religion in the sight of Allah is Islam. the religion in the eyes of Allah, or the sight of Allah, is Islam. So Allah restricted the true religion to Islam. That's clear. When Allah spoke about it, He didn't say Inna Dina inda Allahil Islam wa what Nasraniya wa etc. Mentioned and Christianity and Judaism and Hinduism. It's Islam. And Islam means, I gave this definition, when was it, last week or the week before? Submission to Allah through Tawheed. وَالْإِنْقِيَادُ لَهُ بِالطَّاعَةِ, and to surrender to Him through obedience, and to cut yourself off from shirk and its people. This is the Islam that's with Allah as the only religion. Complete submission to Allah alone was Tawheed. That's proof number one. Number two, Al Imran again, 85, verse 85. Allah said, وَمَن يَبْتَغِي غَيْرَ الْإِسْلَامِ دِينًا فَلَن يُقْبَلَ مِنْهُ. Whoever seeks a religion other than Islam, it will never be accepted from him. Any religion that you desire other than Islam won't be accepted. وَهُوَ فِي الْآخِرَةِ مِنَ الْخَاسِرِينَ. And in the year after, he will be from amongst the losers. You can't be successful because you're upon kufr and shirk. Understand? That's two evidences which is sufficient for us for now. There are other evidences we could mention. Surah Mumtahina, verse number 4. But that's enough for us. Okay? Specifically talking about Christianity, what did Allah say about them? لَقَدْ كَفَرَ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا إِنَّ اللَّهَ هُوَ الْمَسِيحُ ابْنُ مَرْيَمَ. And لَقَدْ كَفَرَ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا إِنَّ اللَّهَ ثَالِثُ ثَلَاثَةٍ. Specifically about them, Allah said in Surah Ma'idah, verse 72 and 73, they have certainly disbelieved those who say Allah is the Masih, the son of Maryam. That Allah is Isa. They're the same. This is complete disbelief. The next ayah, they have certainly disbelieved those who say Allah is the third of three, the Trinity. There's no doubt about the kufr of this. Allah says, لَقَدْ كَفَرَ الَّذِينَ, which means certainly they had disbelieved. There's no doubt. So no one can come today and have doubt. Understand? And nor can we say they're not upon kufr, nor can we say that they are. Or nor can we not do takfir. We have to do takfir because Allah made takfir. Allah did takfir. He said, لَقَدْ كَفَرَ الَّذِينَ. That's takfir. Right? If you look at hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, مَنْ قَالَ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ وَكَفَرَ بِمَا يُعْبَدُ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ. Once again, there's the kufr bit-taghut. He said, whoever says La ilaha illallah and disbelieves in what is ever is worshipped besides Allah, وَكَفَرَ بِمَا يُعْبَدُ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ. He says La ilaha illallah and he disbelieves in whatever is worshipped besides Allah. Open kufr bit-taghut. حَرُمَ مَالُهُ وَدَمُهُ وَحِسَابُهُ عَلَى اللَّهِ. This person, his wealth and blood is haram to take. He's a true believer and his account will be with Allah. Right? That's the believer. Not the one who doubts or the one who says that this is permissible to worship other than Allah and so forth. In another hadith, he said, by the one in whose hand is the soul of Muhammad, he swears by Allah, no Jew or Christian from this nation hears of me, then dies without believing in what I was sent with, the Qur'an and the Sunnah, except that he will be among the inhabitants of the fire. Specifically mentions the Jews and the Christians of this generation, this ummah, meaning after the time of the Prophet ﷺ, he doesn't believe in him and what he came with, then this person will be of the fire. He's not a believer. Understand? This hadith are both in Sahih Muslim that I mentioned. Right? So this is why we say they are upon kufr. We should have no doubt about this. And thirdly, we definitely cannot justify their religion. Now we come to this issue of this Abrahamic faith, right? Um, and the call of Wahdatul Adyan. Wahdatul Adyan means all religions are one. All religions are similar. The goal is the same. Worship the Creator. And, there's no difference. There are small differences, but in reality, they're like one. Okay? The unity of religions, Wahdatul Adyan. Obviously, this is something that's not Islamic. And now recently, there's this thing called the Abrahamic faiths, or Abrahamic Accords, I think it was called, right? In the UAE, they had this. These things are problematic because if the call is to say, we're all the same, we all came from Ibrahim, Jews, Christians, Muslims, all from the region of Ibrahim, from the millet of Ibrahim. Firstly, this is not true. Or those religions have been changed. Their books have been distorted. And their religions have changed. Their aqidas have all changed. They're not upon what their prophets came with. So if we were to go back to the original sources, yani what Isa actually came with, and Musa came with, and the Prophet, then we could say, all upon the millah of Ibrahim. Do we agree on this? But the reality is, what they are upon today is not what their prophets came with. Their religions have been changed. And so today we can't make a call and say, we are all one, and we all worship Allah. Let's agree to that point. We all worship Allah. Now, if we studied Qawaid al-Arba', we all agree they worship Allah. But that's not our dispute. Our dispute is not that you worship your Creator. Our dispute, our issue is that you associate partners with Him in worship. يشركون في العبادة. That's the problem. And Islam doesn't allow us to accept that. We've learned, just today again, we've reminded ourselves we must make kufr bil taghut. So if someone comes and says, I worship Allah and I worship other than Allah as well, we say, sorry, you're not a Muslim. That's kufr. It's still kufr. Even if you believe in rububiyyah, as we described in the Qawaid al-Arba'. That's not enough. That did not bring the Quraysh into Islam. It will not bring you into Islam until you do kufr bil taghut. Which means you reject everything that's worshipped besides Allah, as the hadith in Muslim said. So what was the question again that you had earlier? Besides the La ilaha illallah part, the issue was they sit together and they say we all worship Allah and we sort of unite. We should unite based upon kufr. Right? In reality, it's kufr. They calling it like belief and the same thing, which is batila. This is a call that is completely misguided. The call to wahdatul adyan, that all religions are the same, is a call to kufr. You cannot say those religions are the same, because then you are doing what? Sahhaha madhabahum. Understand? You're saying that the religions are correct. And that is unacceptable. It can't be correct. We've already proven inna dina inda Allah al-Islam. وَمَن يَبْتَغِ غَيْرَ الْإِسْلَامِ دِينًا فَلَا يُقْبَلَ مِنْهُ. Won't be accepted from them. So we've studied the concept of al-wala wal-bara. Right? Unity and disunity. What we unite upon, what we completely cut ourselves off from, is kufr and shirk. Right? So definitely, this idea of wahdatul adyan is not obviously Islamic. This principle, this idea, it comes from the disbelievers in reality. And some of the mashayikh actually said it comes from a Zionist movement. It actually comes from a Zionist movement from the Americans and Israel and so forth, that this is where the call has come from. This is to weaken the ummah. And for us to accept them and let them come in and, into the Muslim countries and give them freedom. Not to have bara and say, no, son, you can't do that here. Give them what they want. This is the idea. So this is not Islamic, right? And the Lajnatu Da'ima, the panel of senior scholars, they said, if any Muslim has a call to Wahdatul Adyan, it comes from a Muslim. He says, then this is clear, Riddah is a murtad. If a Muslim says we must have Wahdatul Adyan, then this person is murtad. It's out of fold of Islam. Right? Because that is complete kufr. It conflicts with the foundations of the deen and Islamic belief. Right? So that's not acceptable at all. We separate our deen from the religions of disbelief and shirk and kufr and so forth. طيب. Any questions so far? Everything clear? Feel like there's something I wanted to say. Khair, we'll carry on. Hmm. Yeah. Okay, we're going to get to that now. Okay, that's a good question. I said at the beginning of the book, we don't do takfir. We're not starting the book to do takfir of others. But at the same time, I'm saying now, you can't have doubt over the mushrikeen's kufr, or not consider them to be kafir, or say that they're correct. Where's the balance between the two? We're going to explain that now. So on this issue, when it comes to kuffar and mushrikeen, they are of two categories. They have two categories. Number one are those whose disbelief is agreed upon. Those whose disbelief is agreed upon, like who? Jews, Christians, Hindus, Sikhs, right? Idol worshippers. Or you could even add here the Zoroastrians or the Majus. The Quran speaks about the Majusis, the fire worshippers, the Magians, many others. You don't have to mention everything. But the point is, it's agreed upon. As Muslims, we all say they're upon kufr. No one does. No one like has any doubt. Oh, I'm not sure if they're Muslim or not. No, you can see the guys are not a Muslim. You can see he's a kafir, right? He himself will tell you, "I'm not Muslim." Are you with me? He's gonna. Why do you come to mosque? I'm not Muslim. There's no. You can't have doubt about that. You can't not. Now this is the point. You can't say they not kafir. As a Muslim, you must say he's kafir. You must use the word kufr for him. This is upon clear kufr. It's agreed upon. And you can't have doubt over it. And definitely, you cannot say they're upon haqq. You cannot validate what they're upon. Understand? So this is category number one. Category number two are those whose disbelief is differed over. Or it's not automatically judged. Their disbelief is not automatically decided or judged. For example, the person identifies as a Muslim. He identifies as a Muslim, but he has fallen into one of the nullifiers of Islam. Understand? He has done something that's kufr, said something that could be kufr. Understand? Or it could be an issue which is even differed over. Some might say it's kufr, some might say it's not. Like the example I gave of the one who asked at the gravesite. Some said it's bid'ah, some said it's shirk. So one might say it's mushrik, one might say mubtadi'. You understand? So this person's Islam is differed over. Does this answer your question already? Right? So we understand now. The first category, we can have no doubt. No one must justify what they're upon, and you must say they're kafir. If you don't, you're upon kufr yourself. Anyone comes to them and says, Jews, oh, I can't say they kafir. Christians, I can't say they kafir. That's kufr. That person becomes a disbeliever because he's rejecting the Qur'an, the Sunnah, and the consensus of the Ummah. The second category is where there's some khilaf now, where we can't automatically say this person, mushrik, kafir, out of fold of Islam. And therefore, anyone who doubts his kufr is also out of. No, 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 no. You can't do that. This is a separate issue now. This is why the categories are important to understand in this issue. So, I'll give you two examples. Number one is tarikus salah. A person doesn't pray salah at all. According to many scholars, like the Hanbalis, Hanbali madhab, many of the scholars who follow them, they said tarikus salah is disbeliever. A person who doesn't pray salah at all, meaning never pray salah, not Jumu'ah, not Maghrib, not anything, he's a disbeliever. This is the view of the Hanbali madhab and many scholars who followed that view. Right? And then there's other scholars who said he's a major sinner but not disbeliever. Are you with me? I cannot apply this principle to a tariku salah. Are you with me? So I come and I say, there's a guy, his name is Abdullah, he doesn't pray salah ever, he's kafir. And whoever doesn't say he's kafir is also kafir. And whoever doubts that he's a kafir is kafir. And whoever says he is Muslim and what he's doing is haqq is kafir. That I can't do. Because he is not the same like the person who doesn't identify as a Muslim. Are we all together? Right? Is this clear? Similarly, let's take the issue of grave worship. Istighatha li ghayrillah or bi ghayrillah. A person sits and he calls upon other than Allah. He makes dua to other than Allah. What is the ruling? Shirk. So, can I apply this principle to him? And say, whoever says he's a Muslim is also is upon kufr. And whoever doubts his Islam is upon kufr. And whoever says what he's doing is haqq is upon kufr. Can I apply the principle to him or not? We can't apply the principle to him. Because his affair is differed over. That's why. His affair is not clear. It's differed over. You might find ulama saying he's out of fold mushrik. And you might find others saying what he's doing is shirk, yes. But is he out of fold? We can't make that judgment. That judgment needs to be done properly, individually, on an individual basis. So before I say Abdullah is out of fold, I need to sit him down, explain to him what he's doing is shirk. Rather, what you're doing, you can't do. It's major shirk. It's kufr. Allah said. The Prophet said. You see, understand the proofs. Yes, I understand it. And he still does it. Oh, now the Shaykh might say, this person's a mushrik. This person's out of fold. That's it. There's a process involved of establishing the proofs against him. Not just a ruling. Boom, out of fold. It doesn't work like that. That's not how takfir works. So, the reality is, with these type of people, we won't apply this principle to them. We won't apply this principle to them. Are you with me? So if someone is committing shirk and someone says, I can't say he's kafir, I can't say you kafir for saying that. Or I doubt whether he's Muslim or kafir, I don't know. Well, now I can't say that. Khair, we agree? Any questions? Any questions? Okay. What if someone says what he's doing is haqq? Yeah. So what if so can I say this is kufr? This is kufr. This is kufr. Notice the difference here. So let me clarify the situation again. There's a guy, his name's Abdullah. He is calling upon the dead day and night. Whether he does it once or not, doesn't matter. The point is, he's calling upon the dead, the saints, the awliya, the salihin, whoever it is. His of Islam is differed over, correct? Some will say he's mushrik, some say he could be jahil, he could be this, we can't make takfir of him. But Ikhwani, when it comes to rulings, once again, the rulings are of two types. It's upon the action and upon the person. The person is Abdullah, and the action is him calling upon the dead. Now, when I say the action, I'll say that is shirk akbar. Can I say he's a mushrik? Out the fault of Islam? This is where scholars said, listen, we'll pass a ruling upon the action anytime. Because the action doesn't change. If you do this, you did shirk. Are you judged as a mushrik out of fault of Islam? That's a separate issue. That requires a scholar to sit down with and pass a ruling upon the person. Understand? But the action doesn't change. If someone's doing bid'ah, I will say what he's doing is bid'ah, 100%. Is he going to be judged and ruled as a mubtadi' in the deen, must be treated like a mubtadi'? That requires a bit more details. There's a difference between passing a ruling on a person and upon the action. So when it comes to the action of Mr. Abdullah, we say what he's doing is major shirk. Is he a mushrik kafir? That requires more details. That needs a scholar to sit down with, establish the evidence against him, then decide whether he's upon kufr or not. So now, this is his affair, right? I want to apply this qaida to him. So the qaida says, whoever does not make takfir of the mushrik is a kafir. Does this apply to him? No. Whoever doubts his kufr is a kafir. Does this apply to him? No. The third issue is, أو صحح مذهبهم, is when a person comes and says, he's Muslim, I don't doubt he's Muslim. In fact, what he's doing is the haqq. What he's doing is authentic, it's correct, there's nothing wrong, it's valid. This is a mushkilah. Now I can say, brother, that's a statement of kufr. You can become a disbeliever just by saying that, because you are making tasheeh of kufr, of shirk. You're saying the shirk is tawheed? You're saying that is shirk, but it's tawheed? Iman is kufr? Equating the two? So that's why we said the third category, the third part of the qaida is the most severe, is where you validate what they're doing. Right? So the moment you validate kufr or shirk, this is an act of kufr in and of itself. Is this understood? واضح? Any questions on this mas'ala? Yes. Yeah. Say it again. Someone's doing act of shirk. Okay. Yes. Right. Right. So it's something different over. Fine. Thanks. Right. Mm. Okay. Mm. Right. Again, I will say what he said is kufr. Is he a kafir? That's takfir that requires the details. Meaning, the scholar needs to pass that ruling. But we can say what he said is also kufr. Justifying istihza is also kufr. Justifying istighatha is also kufr. Justifying shirk and kufr is kufr. But is he a kafir automatically? It depends. We can't say that I won't pass the ruling automatically. Understand? I won't pass the ruling automatically. And if you notice what the author says here, he says kafara ijma'an. Kafara ijma'an. What does that mean? Read it in the English. What does it say at the end of the principle? Whoever doesn't regard them as kafir, whoever doubts Islam, whoever does tasih of their madhab, kafara ijma'an. What does it say? He disbelieves by consensus. Now, I could argue on that wording that the author is saying it's an act of kufr. But is he a kafir? That's a separate issue. As I explained earlier, you get the action and you get the ruling on the person. So a Muslim can do an act of kufr or shirk, but we don't say he's kafir or mushrik. So kafara, what he's doing is kufr. Is he himself out of fold kafir, written off as a... That we withhold from that. Generally, we always are a bit hesitant with this. Why? The person could be a jahil. He could not know what he's saying. He could be confused. He could be have a shubha, a misconception. Someone taught him incorrectly. Someone told him this is in the Qur'an and he thought it's in the Qur'an. Someone used the verse of Qur'an and confused him. He thought, he believed he's following the Qur'an and Sunnah. So we can't just say he's kafir because he doesn't know any better. Therefore, we say what you did is actually what he did is kufr, but I'm not going to say he's kafir for it. Out the fold, yani his nikah is invalidated and all those things we spoke about. Are you with me? But the action, we can't withhold from the action. We're going to say that's kufr or shirk because that doesn't change no matter who does it. But the ruling on the person is dependent. Is dependent. Understood? No. His action is kufr. Well, obviously it depends on the issue. Are you with me? Not every kufr is the same. Let's give you an example. Let's say it comes to uh, calling upon the dead. You got Sufis who were taught it's allowed. And you got Ahlul Sunnah who were taught it's shirk. You can't call upon other than Allah. You call upon Allah alone, calling upon the dead is shirk. But they were told by their sheikhs it's allowed. So when he says, well, no, there's something wrong with what that guy is doing, it's allowed. I will say that's an act of shirk. But I can't say you're a mushrik kafir. Because you don't know any better. Right? Doesn't know any better. But let me give you another example. We have a Rafidi. He comes up here and he says, the Quran is incomplete. The Quran, parts of it was revealed and given to Fatima radiallahu anha, and it was eaten by a goat. They say stuff like this. Some of them have these strange beliefs. So part of the Quran is lost. Right? Does that require knowledge to know that this person that this is kufr? Any practicing normal Muslim will be able to say, you saying the Quran is changed? Saying the Quran is not preserved? That's kufr. Yani, there should be, or let's even use a different example. Someone curses Allah or curses the messenger. This is kufr. Does it require a scholar to come and say, listen, do you know that's kufr? A Muslim should know that that's not allowed. Should know that that's disbelief. Are you with me? So there's different types of kufr. Some are more clear cut than others. Some are more clear cut than others. So when it comes to, uh, passing the ruling upon the person, some ulama will be straight and say, no, whoever said it's kafir. How can you not know that? How can you doubt that? Others might say, no, he lives in a non-Muslim country, he grew up in a non-Muslim, okay, give him excuse. But even this ulama differ over it. The on how to do takfir. It is different over. Some are more strict. If you look at the Saudi Najdis, they're very strict. They are like, I'm not saying extreme, they're strict. Sheikh Salih Fawzan. Sheikh Salih Fawzan is, he doesn't believe in udhr bil jahl. What does that mean? That a person can be ignorant in matters of tawheed. He says there's no such thing as ignorance. When it comes to tawheed, you're either a believer or you're not. Meaning what? If that guy worships the dead, he's kafir. So no, Shaykh, he doesn't know any better. He says, well, he's not Muslim in the first place. He didn't know the Shahada in the first place. So he never actually fulfilled the Shahada in the first place. Hence, how can you be a Jahil? about La ilaha illallah. If you jahil about La ilaha illallah, you don't know you kalima, you're not Muslim. Do you understand? This is how they rule. They say there's no udhr bil jahal in the fundamentals. How can you not know La ilaha illallah and then you say you're Muslim? But most of our mashayikh said udhr bil jahal. They said no, the people are ignorant. They are Muslim, but they were taught incorrectly. They were taught incorrectly. And that's the view I personally follow. Right? I think Ibn Uthaymeen as well goes with this as well. He says there is udhr bil jahal. But this is a disputed issue. You'll find books on this now. Udhr bil jahal, written for centuries, يعني, but that's a long discussion. Yes. Takfiri. Yeah, that's one of the things they accuse Ibn Abdullah rahimahullah about is they say that he believed he's the only one who understood La ilaha illallah in his time there in the world, wherever in his locality, and everyone else was jahil, and so he regarded everyone else as mushrikeen, and that's why that was his da'wah. So Kitab al-Tawheed and Usul al-Thalatha and this book, and that's the claim that they make. And it's taken from a statement of Ibn Abdullah where he said this about the Shahada, that at the time and he obviously spoke in a context where he was, that the people didn't understand the Shahada. And when we say didn't understand the Shahada, meaning the way we explained it earlier, Nafi and Isbat, Kufr bil Taghut, believing in Allah alone, worshipping Allah alone. They didn't understand this because they had many superstitions, many acts of shirk that they were doing. He didn't mean the whole world except him. That's number one. Number two is, in his own words, in his own books, he says, they accuse me of this, and I never said this. I never made takfir of the whole ummah. I never made takfir of the people. He says this in his own words. So you want to say and say, no, you did do it, and he's saying, I don't believe that. And they say, no, you know you believe it. And he's saying, I'm telling you, I don't believe this. Now, who are you going to believe? Are you going to believe the guy who's telling you, I don't believe all the Muslims are kafir? Or are you going to believe the guy who doesn't like him and says, no, I know you believe this? Yeah, we're going to take what the man said himself, not what you interpreted from his words, what suits you to take from what he said. So this is just a lie. It's a shubha. It's a slander against the Shaykh because they didn't like the Shaykh for his da'wah. That's it. That's it. His da'wah destroyed their beliefs. And so they made up many lies about Ibn Abdul Wahhab, rahimahullah ta'ala, just like they did with those before him, Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah, and those before them, right? The reality is it's the teachings that they don't like. So they attack the personality, even the terms Wahhabi and all these things that they came up with. It's all part of the slander. Part of the slander. So was he a takfiri who made takfir of the masses? He was not. And I can send you the quotes if you want. He openly says it. I don't believe in this. I never do mass takfir. Declare the masses to be kafir. Never ever. That was not his methodology. And as we said, these things, what we're discussing, the Shaykh says himself, ijma'an. These are rulings that the scholars agreed upon. It's not like he's ruling. It's in the Qur'an, it's in the Sunnah, it's agreed upon. Nothing is new that we are learning here. Just like Qawaid al-Arba', I made a habit, I made it sure to constantly quote early scholars. In that commentary we did, I made sure I'm quoting early scholars from the 1st century, 2nd century, 3rd century, 4th century, to quoting Maturidis, to quoting Ash'aris. Every dars I did it, right? Every dars, when I mentioned the Sheikh said this, I said, the Ash'ari say this. Imam al-Mansur al-Maturidi said this. This Ash'ari Imam, this Ash'ari Imam, this Ash'ari Imam agreed with this. Ar-Razi agreed. Why did I do that? To show you this is nothing new. It's not a so-called Wahhabi belief. It's the modern day people that go against it. They upon bid'ah, they go against their own Imams. And then they'll just flip it around and say it's a Wahhabi thing. Because the people don't know what their own imams believe. We're Ash'ari, but you don't even follow your own imams. In matters of belief, tawheed, matters, they themselves wouldn't agree with you. So that's why we, highlighted those opinions, is to put an end to these shubuhat, right? Um, there are books that we can find written on the life of Ibn Abdul Wahhab in English, and his teachings and his da'wah. I'm sure they will address many of these misconceptions that are out there. Um, now, but long story short, he himself, I'll try and find the quote for you and send it, where he clearly says, this is not our methodology. And I never said this, I never did this. This is just false accusations. You had a question, Abdul Rabbi? Yes. Usul matters. Usul matters. That's again, according to Sheikh Fawzan and them, for them, you can't, these matters of usul, there's no ignorance allowed in them. So, like worshipping other than Allah, that's not furu', that's usul. That's clearly in the Shahada, La ilaha illallah. That's what it says. And now someone comes and says, no, you can worship the dead. You say, if you're ignorant of that, then there's no excuse for that. We can't make an excuse and say, no, you don't know any better. So they're referring to usul. Furu' would be other matters, uh, secondary issues. That's not that clear cut in the Quran or Sunnah, where maybe even early scholars differed over, um, like for example, tawassul bijah and Nabi, asking by the status of the Prophet. That's a furu'i matter, because it's still being asked of Allah. It's just, can I use this type of tawassul? But you're not asking other than Allah. So it's not an usuli issue. It's more of a furu' issue, right? Um, now, so in Aqidah, we have furu'i issues, which is subsidiary issues, secondary issues, and we got the primary issues, usul. The usul, we say, is agreed upon. The Sahaba, the Salaf, never differed on them. As for furu', you might find some differing that took place. They're secondary issues. They're not core matters of belief. For example, when the Prophet made the Isra and Mi'raj, did he see Allah or not? Is this a core matter of belief? This is a secondary issue. Whether he went above, he went up into the heavens, he spoke to Allah. Did he see Allah or not? Some of the Sahaba said he saw light. Some said he saw. Aisha said he never saw Allah. Whoever said he saw Allah has lied. So now people say, see, Sahaba differ in Aqidah. So we can also differ in Aqidah. So they take that issue and they justify all differences, from grave worship to rejecting Allah's names and attributes. You can't compare that to this. You can't compare that to this. That's a secondary issue. That's not a usuli issue. It's a furu'i matter. That's not really from the core fundamentals of aqidah. Wallahu a'lam. Yes, yes. I mean, uh, I was once in a bookstore and I met a sheikh in the store, famous sheikh. Um, and we asked him this question about, we go back to our countries, can we give talks in other masajid? The masajid of bid'ah. And we specifically mentioned Brelvis, Deobandis, and so forth. So he said, Deobandis, I don't think so, but Brelvi, kufar. Was his words. Al-amma al-Brelwiya, kufar. That was his words, exact words. As for Brelvis, they're not Muslim. Sheikh Muhammad ibn Hadi. Yes. He's a big scholar in Medina. Medina University as well. He's a teacher. That was his words. Why? Because when they look at the aqidah, it's full of shirk. The reality is it's filled with shirkiyat. You understand? Filled with shirkiyat. Um, Not like one or two examples, plenty of examples. But now the issue for us is, what about the layman on the street? They don't know any better. So we saying they jahil. You understand? Whereas they saying you can't be jahil in these matters of shirk and tawheed. That is where there is some difference between the ulama. So you asked that question. He said it explicitly. No. Does he mean every single individual? Allahu alam. But that was his words. Like that. Hmm. Yeah. Maybe. Mumkin. But I don't think it's about that. I think it's about the issue itself. Like the issue is with the issue. You can't be Muslim if you don't know this. You understand? No, but that's different. Because they don't claim to be Muslim. They don't claim to be, you know, upon Tawheed or anything. Or some of them. But there's other acts of kufr they fall into. And accept the Prophet ﷺ as the last prophet and all those things. Um, yeah, Allah Alam. I personally, like I said, most of our scholars from what I've seen, they still do udhr bil jahl. They agree that people have excuse of ignorance. And so they don't make, uh, rule many people to be upon kufr. They'll say they're upon kufr, but we can't say they're out the fold of Islam because they are ignorant, they don't know any better. Um, now, what's the dalil for this? Who knows? The dalil for giving udhr bil jahl. Must be a dalil for it. You can't just say we give udhr bil jahl. No, no. Listen to the question. What's the evidence that the scholars can use to justify giving people excuse of ignorance in matters of belief? Is there any evidence you can think of where someone was basically given excuse of ignorance? There's a hadith about a man who said to his children, "When I die, burn my body, basically cremate and scatter the ashes, so that Allah cannot punish me. He cannot punish me on my body because I'll be scattered, I'll be gone." Right? Is this an act of kufr or not? Is it that's a statement of kufr? To think Allah can't bring your bones back or still punish you is kufr. And the Prophet ﷺ made an excuse of ignorance for him. Said this person was upon jahl. So based on that hadith, ulama said that's udhr bil jahl. That was a statement of kufr. But the Nabi ﷺ said he's still a believer. You'll still be judged as a believer. Why? Because he didn't know any better. He said this upon ignorance. So our mashayikh used that hadith to say this is proof that people can be a Muslim and ignorant of basics of belief. Basics of belief. You know what Sheikh Fawzan says? That's a furu'i matter. He says it's a secondary issue. He says, no, that's a secondary issue. It's not a primary issue. But our other scholars say, no, that's a primary issue. Not saying, saying Allah can't punish me if my body is burnt and scattered, the ashes are scattered. This is it's a primary issue. And that's what's more apparent to me as well. That's like a primary issue. Believing Allah can't do something. Every Muslim knows Allah ala kulli shayin qadir. He's able to do anything and everything. And He created us in the first place. He can resurrect us. Bring our bones back together if He wants to. So hence, this is the dalil for udhr bil jahl. That we can give people excuse of ignorance. Say, look, the person doesn't know any better. I'm not going to say it's kafir. What he's doing is wrong. It's shirk, kufr. But I'm not going to say kafir, kafir, kafir. No. let's withhold. This is because we also, like you said, we know the reality of the people. It's not that they just don't know. The issue is more they were taught this. They were told by their shuyukh that they trust. This is right. Our scholars have done it. The Quran says this, and they don't know how to counter those evidences. You understand? Or the hadiths that are being presented. And they're being misrepresented to them. But they don't have knowledge to see that. And so hence they are being misled. They are being misled. So Udhr bil Jahal seems to be, for me personally, the most correct view. And Allah knows best. But it is where the scholars differ. Long debates on it. Long debate, just summarizing it here. But as I said, they have kutub written on it and big discussions on it. Um, wasn't there a debate in London about this a few years ago? I think so. Was there? About this issue? Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, it was Dr. Bilal Phillips and Asim Al Hakim. You know Asim Al Hakim. The two of them had a debate last year, a couple of years ago, like a friendly. They had like a friendly debate about core issues. I think it was about. I can't remember. I never watched it, but 16 years ago, subhanallah. Salah. But is he kafir or not? I was with Tariq Salah. I know it was an issue of kufr or not. And one said it's kufr, the other one said it's not kufr. Right? So they had like a. No, it's not that. Anyways, maybe it wasn't about this issue. Yeah, I think it was extreme fear that led him to it. But that led him to doing what he did. But it's still an ignorant thing to do. Yeah, that extreme joy, yes. But that's a different thing. That's a slip of the tongue. This is literally saying to his children, go and do this when I die, so that Allah can't punish me. You understand? It's not the same like the hadith where the man was overjoyed. He was lost at the desert, gave up hope, thought I'm just waiting for death. And then his camel came back with all of his supplies. And when he saw it, he said, oh, so much joy. He said, I am the Lord and Allah is my slave. It's a slip of the tongue, that. That's not a belief behind it. This is different to him saying to his children, burn my bones, etc. Because, so it was led by fear, but the action, the statement is kufr, right? And it's not, like it's not just a slip of the tongue. You're giving instruction to your children. Um, nah, yes. Allah alam, why Allah, the Prophet is forgiven. Right? The focus we have on the hadith is what? That the man made a statement of kufr, but was still forgiven. You understand? So yes, he had iman and he had the fear and shyness of Allah and so forth. But at the end of the day, to say if I do this, Allah can punish me, is still kufr. So, يعني Allahu alam. But the point is that it was ignorance. Um, yeah, probably Ibn Taymiyyah and all of them. Yes. If there's any questions, I'm not going to start the next qaida. We can just relax. If there's any questions, we can take. Otherwise, we'll wrap up and then we'll do the next one next week, inshallah. Sorry? I'm gonna check Zoom. I never see the Zoom questions. No, there's nothing on Zoom. I was reading something quickly, they never to take it. Hmm. Ibn Taymiyyah says his aqidah is built upon أنه يجهل بأن الله على كل شيء قدير وكان يجهل قدرة الله عز وجل قدرة الله عليه. Man in ignorance. That's why he wasn't resurrected as a mushrik. Ibn Taymiyyah said he even said to his children, take part of the ashes, throw it in the ocean, take part, throw it in the land, take part, throw it into the air. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked him, why did you do this? He said, min khashyatik, because I feared you. He said, وَالشَّكْ فِي قُدْرَةِ اللَّهِ تَبَارَكَ وَتَعَالَى كُفْرٌ أكبر. Ibn Taymiyyah said, having just doubting the abilities of Allah is major shirk, is major kufr. Kufr akbar. Um, but كان يجهل ذلك, but he was ignorant of this, as is the tafsir of a group of scholars who use this hadith to prove al-i'dharu bil-jahl, ignorance through jahl. To this, Allah alam, that as I said, that's part of the the hukum should be left to a qadi, should be left to a sheikh, a scholar, to decide whether that order is now being fulfilled, and Allahu a'lam. Barakallahu feekum. We'll stop here inshallah ta'ala, and we'll continue next week with the fourth nullifier بإذن ta'ala. جزاكم الله خيرا وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. كيفك شيخ؟ خير. خذ شاي لك.